Facebook on live, we've got Zoom on as well. If you're watching live or via the replay, via the replay, either way, go ahead and drop any questions you have as we go through this workshop presentation, a little bit of both. Drop your comments in there, drop your questions in there, and I'm going to be checking on them live and also after this event too. So any questions you have, if you're watching the replay, great, no problem. We'll get your questions answered. So let's get started. Going over here to share screen. I do. I love technology. Okay. I do. I love it. Here we go. Okay. Hopefully you all can see my screen. I love it when a plan comes together. Okay. Welcome. What are we doing here tonight? We're learning a little bit about resolving trauma in our family lineage. And maybe you have no trauma in your family lineage and you're just curious about what all this is about. Maybe you're curious because you think there may be some in the lineage, or maybe there's some specifically for you that you wanted to look at or not look at or get some help with. Tonight, I'm going to share a little bit about the work that I do. The offering is ancestral clearing, and talk a little bit about what it is, what it's not. We're going to talk about some science behind it too. I'm offering in this free workshop tonight a group clearing session, and then question and answer session as well. So as I said in the very beginning when I was setting up the tech, if you have questions, if you want to provide feedback to me about your experience, you're able to put that in the comments or in the Zoom chat. I believe I should be able to see the Zoom chat as well. I can see the Zoom chat. So wonderful. Here we go. Let's get started. How many of you have seen something like this before on Facebook, some kind of meme on social media? It's becoming more and more common to hear people discuss generational trauma. When I first started this work, it was not a common term. And it's becoming more common as people are realizing that there's some things that are going on that may not have started with us that we could use some help with. So yes, it's up to us to break generational trauma, but how many of us actually know how to do this? I certainly didn't know how to do this. So let's take a moment and just pause, whether you're watching morning, noon, or night, or you're on live or you're on the replay. Let's just take a moment to pause and really take in and just take in this moment for a second or two. And when we consider how much we've all been through to get you exactly to where you are today in this moment, that every decision you made or didn't make, or that was made for you, has resulted in you being here, right now. Right here, right now, in this present moment. And we are watching this or participating in this with a group of other people that are all watching live, again, or replay. And every one of us has made different decisions. Mostly, we've made different decisions than each other. And yet somehow we've all ended up right here in this moment. But how did you get here? Not one of us got here without any pain or any challenges, and some more than others. So we're starting out with this pause to honor you, honoring you and your journey. Because if you're here right now, you're curious about getting to the root to clear and resolve old stuff. And our brains are not wired to make this easy for us. So Thank you for being here. You may be the first person in your generational lineage, first person in your lineage who's ever taken a look under the hood at this. So this is a big deal. What I'm about to share with you today is that often the challenges that we are experiencing or have experienced did not start with us. And maybe you've seen this. So I do love this quote. All the eggs of women, I'm just moving my windows around, excuse me. All the eggs a woman will ever carry form in her ovaries while she is a 4-month-old fetus in the womb of her mother. This means that our cellular life as an egg begins in the womb of our grandmother. Each of us spent 5 months in our grandmother's womb, and she in turn formed in the womb of her grandmother. We vibrate to the rhythm of our mother's blood before she herself is born. And this pulse is the thread of blood that runs all the way back through the grandmothers to our first mother. And this quote is attributed to Lane Redmond, when the drummers were women, and Mara Friedman for the art. So we've been marinating in the experiences of the women who came before us. So now let's see here. Here we go. So now that we know it's up to us to be the change we wish to see in the world, where do we start? So let's talk about the science behind this. In the 2014 Discover magazine article, we learn how a change in nutrition can actually change the susceptibility of disease in mice. Super not a fan of animal testing. However, this has already been done, so I'm sharing this knowledge. The results showed the importance of how important epigenetic changes can be. And so an epigenome, this was new to me when I started this work 6-7 years ago. An epigenome is an array of chemical markers and switches which can help switch on or off the expression of particular genes. So if you are looking for more resources and more articles on this, you can visit my website at andreareedwellness.com. And there's another great article called this is DNA is not destiny. There's your grandmother's genes may affect your current life. But the great news is that the DNA is not destiny. We can make changes in our lives. I think this article being 10 years old was pretty revolutionary, thinking how diet, this is talking about changing diet, can change the genetic line going forward. I feel like we've come a long way since then in accepting this as truth. But let's see what the article reads. Here's a brief synopsis. It is known that the environment in a mother's womb can alter the development of a fetus. What's eye-opening is a growing body of evidence suggests that the epigenetic changes wrought by one's diet, behavior, and surroundings can work their way into the gene line and echo far into the future. Put simply, as bizarre as this may sound, what you eat or smoke today could affect the health and behavior of your great-grandchildren. Well, I feel like we've already accepted that as common knowledge now, but it doesn't stop there, because the studies were then finding that trauma experienced in the lineage can also pass down via these epigenetic attachments to the DNA, and they can even skip a generation. So how do we even know if the stressful experiences that we're having, or the blocks to abundance, or whatever area of life, love, relationships, work, is even an issue that's happening currently, or is something that's been affecting us from the past? How do we know if these triggers are even ours? My slides are beautiful. There we go. Okay, so I did a quick Google search of generational trauma, and it gave me, it's a lot of zeros, 140 million results in 0.45 seconds. So let's take a look at this list. Generational trauma can occur when a group is subject to a traumatic experience like war, natural disaster, racism, sexism, or oppression. The effects of trauma can be passed down to subsequent generations through both genetic and cultural transmission. So if everybody that has experienced this personally, or knows of a parent or grandparent that has also experienced this, or only experienced this, if you haven't, if we were all in a room together and everybody that's experienced at least one of these things raised their hands, I am pretty certain, because I've done this in a room, where every hand went up. We've been through a lot, personally and culturally, over this history on this planet. How many wars and things have gone on? We'll get to that. I'm jumping ahead, but that just haven't been cleaned up, that haven't been addressed. So also, speaking to things that we're aware of, what about issues in our lineage that we don't even know about? How do we even clean that up? So this work can be done in a group or individual session. And it's always, we work always at the pace of the client. So even as we're starting this presentation, sometimes people feel things swirling or coming up for them, sensations in the body. Only do what you can handle. We're going to offer a group session here in a few minutes. And it's up to you if you want to participate or not. So you can set that intention here in a few moments. Like, hey, I'm not sure I can handle this. I'm good. I'm going to sit this one out. I'm just going to observe and see what it's all about. Or you can set the intention to participate fully or somewhere in between. So free will. Here we go. Slide 8. We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking that was used when we created them. So if I'm in a deep, dark hole, like I was, and the only tool I have is a shovel, what do you think is going to happen? We're only going to get deeper into the same hole using the same tool that got us there. And I don't mean to make light of the situation, but since then I've thought, well, you know, if I had a shovel, I could dig out some steps and climb out. But at the time, I felt like, before I found this work and other great work too that I do, other modalities as well, I felt like I was in a hole with a shovel. I didn't have the tools to get myself out of it. We can't think our way out of our problems. And I wonder if I'm going to get into this in another slide here, but I'm going to do it here real quick too. I love power of positive thinking. I also noticed that recently we've come up with this term called toxic positivity. And so glossing over what's actually happened and how we feel has in some ways and in some cases contributed to the problem, compounding it as well by not seeing it. I see you. I see that you're hurting. I see that you're feeling bad, and addressing it and just being present with it alone can, or with a great therapist or with another modality, can help have that move out of the system. But trying to think our way out of the problem when in some ways the mind got us here in the first place, is that the definition of insanity, or is that that's another Einstein quote? It's pretty close to. All right, we're diving in now. For me, it's hard to imagine living through a scene like this. However, this was a reality for my grandparents. This is a photo that I've pulled off the internet. It's not a personal photo. However, both of my maternal and paternal grandparents experienced World War II. I always wondered as a child why chronic illness was a thing. I didn't have the words for it, but I grew up with a mom who had a 10-year major health issue. And she doesn't talk about it like it took her. She doesn't talk about it like I was sick for 10 years, like she was sick for 10 years. She says it took her 9.5 years to heal, to find the right answers to heal. But through those experiences and growing up as a young adult as well, I'm like, our bodies are intelligently designed. Why are we creating scar tissue? Why does a cell transmit its imperfect state when it dies and is replaced by another cell. Like, why is chronic illness a thing? Surely our systems should be able to slough off stress because, and I'm laughing because stress is a huge thing. And it's only recently that it is becoming more common, more mainstream. I think it's becoming mainstream. I'm not really in the mainstream as much anymore, so I'm not certain if this is like talked about on the news. If it is, please let me know, because I would love to watch that part of it. But stress, physical, emotional, chemical stress causes issues in the system. And when our system is overloaded, it's hard to continue to slough off. When that snowball has rolled downhill so far and it's gaining mass and it's gaining speed and momentum, the physics of that is it continues to move on. Object in motion continues to be in motion. So if our previous generations, before we stepped into this bloodline, did not clean up their experiences, where does that go? I have a lot of clients that do this work that ask me, I've already had my babies, I've already had my kids. Will this work help them if I do my work myself? And there's a variety of different ways that question can be answered. It has been my personal experience doing this work for myself with amazing practitioners. I learned this work from John Newton. You can visit his website, it's linked on mine. I've worked with many of people who have graduated from his practitioner trainings as well. And so in my experience, I have found that this work transforms all areas of your life. And as I clear and resolve what I carry, my human experience shifts. So if I'm walking around with a bunch of buttons and I resolve the charge to those issues, I clear those buttons, suddenly the people who are looking for buttons to push drop out of my life. It also increases my bandwidth for more space, more patience, more love, more understanding. I'm a mother of two very energetic boys. And as I, still things come up today, even on a daily basis, things come up for me. I have to really look at them and examine if this isn't about what's happening right now. And if I can do the work for myself without having to work it out with this person, I can actually resolve this and come from a more neutral, compassionate place when I engage with this person next. Literally on the drive home, I had these experiences. It's such a gift. So when I discovered, hey, we're not born with a clean slate here, that changed my whole view of like, why can't we handle things? Why is chronic illness a thing? So if you've ever seen a child stub their toe, or if you've ever had this experience, what do you notice right away? Or like, oh my gosh, I bonked my elbow so hard. I don't know why it's called a funny bone. It was not funny. It was like, I almost saw red for a second. It hurt so much. And the first thing my fight or flight kicked in, and I went, and I held my breath, and I was like, and then my training kicked in from years of practice of this. And I was like, no, the breath, we're going to breathe this out. So I've seen the kids do this, and they stub their toe and they hold their breath, and it's like, oh, holding it in, but the breath is life. And at that moment, if at that moment of shock and pain, we were given the space to presence through that moment, fully giving it our attention and breathe through it. It can't possibly be this simple, can it? We're going to find out. As we breathe through it, we may notice that the sensations dissipate and the pain may subside. I mean, if it's not broken, and then you need medical attention. But also if it is broken, I've seen some amazing things happen. So back to our picture on the screen. When bombs were dropping on homes, there wasn't time for these people to sit and presence through the fear or anger or despair or emotion that they felt, terror. They didn't have, I call it a luxury. We have that luxury. They didn't have that luxury of being able to presence through what they were going through. We were in the boys and I were in a car accident 2 weeks ago. And in the shock of being hit, in the shock of the moment, you're almost out of your body. I was like, are my kids okay? Am I okay? Can we walk? Thankfully, there were no visible injuries. We're working through a bunch of other things, but it's like in that moment, unless you've had this work as a foundation, I can see how that trauma response can carry forward. Because the next time I got in the car to drive a couple of days later in the rental, and I know I'm a tiny screen on your screen, but if you can see, I put my hands on the steering wheel, and my oldest was sitting next to me, and he looked at the back of my hand on the steering wheel and he says, "Mommy, your veins are popping out of your hand." And I was not conscious of this, but the act of putting my hands on the steering wheel caused my blood pressure to increase, and my veins were popping out of my hands. And the body remembered that there was trauma associated with that position. So I used my tools. And 2 weeks later, actually it was a couple of days later, that doesn't happen anymore. So, life is not about getting through unscathed. And if you're here, this. But what if we can clean up what we carry so that the analogy of that windshield that's been dirtied over many generations gets cleaned up, and we can see clearly as things are, not as through the filters of what has been carried before us. So often it was a survive and move on, right? There's been wars, famines, horrible things that people have done to people, and personally and globally, to the earth and to other peoples and other countries, to each other. And if we're only just beginning the cleanup process of that, and we've been on this planet for how long, there can be a lot of work to do. And the beautiful thing is, with this work, if you call it prayer, if you call it clearings, whatever your word is for that, this work calls in that which created everything that ever is, was, or ever will be, to help clear and resolve and offer forgiveness around everything that happened that led up to these experiences and that resulted from them, and everything we made it mean. And that's a general sweep of it. And you can dive in deeper and dial it into working with someone with pain in specific areas of the body, because the body is like a map. I'm going to move one. No, I'm going to leave this slide here. We're not ready to move on just yet. The body's like a map. We can dial into specific burden that can be carried in different parts of the body. So have you been in survival mode for too long? Have you just been powering through thing after thing that life has thrown at you? Have you noticed patterns in your life? Like, man, I sound like my mother. I love my mother and I love my grandmothers. And sometimes I do sound like them, and that's a beautiful thing. And sometimes I have knee-jerk reactions that I realize, why did I act like that? That didn't start with me. It's not about blaming people. It's not about blaming other generations. It's just noticing, maybe I could do better next time. Why did I have that reaction? It's kind of getting a little bit of free will back. Like, traffic is a great example. What if we were sitting in traffic and the guy or girl, man or woman, person, cuts us off, and instead of having whatever button that we may carry, injustice, anger, whatever that is, drive a physical sensation into the body, that's not fair, that's not right, who do they think they are? Instead, to be able to have that pause and have that step back in that moment of, wow, like that really teed me off. Okay. Well, since I'm sitting in traffic and my hands are on the steering wheel, my blood pressure is elevating, I'm going to take a few slow, deep breaths. And I'm going to notice where I feel it in my body. Maybe solar plexus, personal power region is like fired up and tight or tense or has a dull sensation in it. Where am I noticing discomfort in the body? This is our invitation to get out of survival mode. It's been too long. Our nervous systems were designed to be in fight or flight and then go back to rest and digest. This is the invitation to get out of survival mode. Free up some space to feel like we can breathe. What are you here for? Have you ever asked yourself that question? Maybe you have. What are you here for? I often like to, especially when making big decisions, but I do it more regularly now. I like to kind of reverse engineer regret. And I'll imagine kind of, my older years, end of life years experience, and think, okay, as I look back through my life, will I regret not doing this, or will I regret doing this? Man, I wish I'd had this in my 20s. Whew. But hey, we're here now. And so pausing and downshifting into neutral. It's not something that I guess you can think your way there. I don't know. I've tried. It didn't last. And I've used affirmations, and I have Post-it notes all over my office and vision boards and all the different things that are visually programming me to move towards more of what I want, because out there programs us in the way out there wants to. However, when we call in the intelligence of the body and the intelligence that created the body, that's a more powerful space, in my opinion. So this is your invitation to get out of survival mode, and we're going to move into our group session, our group clearings now. Ooh. You're welcome to share your experience in the comments. You're welcome to share your experience privately if you're watching on Facebook through Messenger or through the Zoom chat. Or you don't have to share it at all. The beautiful thing about this work is it's not therapy. First of all, before I get into the beautiful thing about it, this work is not therapy. It's complementary to therapy, complementary to all modalities, allopathic, holistic. There are people doing this work in hospitals, myself included. But it's not therapy. But it's a beautiful piece to add in. You don't have to know what it is you want to clean up. I don't have to know what it is you want to work on. But I'm going to guide you through this process. And you're going to notice how you feel before and how you feel after. And sometimes it takes more than one round. And sometimes it doesn't. It's unique for every person. Every person here, every person on the planet has had an original, unique experience. Our containers are all unique. What we carry is unique. So, my invitation to you in this moment, if you would like to participate, is to close your eyes. If that feels okay for you to do. And like I said, if you choose not to participate and you just want to check this out, that is totally great. And It's not better. The bonus thing about that is if you want to just witness this process, you can always come back to the Facebook Live and watch it again. And if you choose to participate right now in this first round, and you bring an issue, and then we test it at the end and see, that no longer has a charge for me. That's really not an issue for me anymore. Then you can come to the replay again, pick a different issue. So where are we at? 36 minutes in, you can bookmark 36 minutes or remember this slide. Fast forward to this part and use it again for something else, again and again and again. I have a bunch of videos in this group, in the Facebook group. They go back years. When I was first starting out, the clearings are just as powerful and effective. But some of them are, I was just starting out. So they all still work on the replay. It's pretty cool. So my invitation to you in this moment, if you would like to participate, is to close your eyes and put your attention on what you notice in the body. So as we close our eyes and notice what doesn't feel good in the body. Okay, so because our brains are wired to move towards what feels good and away from what doesn't, and that's what's part of what's possibly kept us on the planet for as long as we're here, because we're wired to move towards pleasure and away from pain. I'm going to give you some tools on how to describe sensation in the body, because for the most part, pain is something we don't want to feel. And as things are moving in your system, you may notice yawning, burping, heat. You may notice some people have tears. Some people feel like the heat rising. Some people notice shakiness. So you get to notice what you notice. Only do what you can handle. So, sensation in the body. If something is painful or hurts, our brains are like, nope, I'm not going there. So let's just change the language a little bit. Doesn't change your experience necessarily, or maybe it does. Let's find out. So if you're noticing pressure, are you noticing tension? Are you noticing hot, cold, stabbing, twisting, pulling? Is there like a dense? Is there like a tightening? An example could be, okay, and we're going to get a 1 to 10 level of intensity of the sensation. So if it's like, okay, maybe I'm noticing a dull, like a tightness to a 6 in the right hip. Or maybe there's like a pinching sensation in the left shoulder, and that's like a 4. Or maybe there's, I've had people say recently, like nauseous. I feel nauseous. So nauseous is a word used to describe sensations. So let's dive in one level deeper and say, only doing what you can handle. Okay, so I'm noticing I'm feeling nauseous. Okay. Swirling, rolling sensation. Oh, it's like sloshing in my stomach, or solar plexus feel like they're rolling. It doesn't feel good. Great. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 is your most intense. Okay, that's about a 3 or 4. So you get your, where you feel it in the body. What does the sensation feel like from a neutral place, pulling, twisting, etc. And what's your 1 to 10? You may also notice sensations move through the body. This is wild for me, because when we put attention on what doesn't feel good, it's like shining a spotlight on it. It's like, oh, I've been seen. But when we put our attention on it, the intelligence of the body goes to where we put our attention and can sometimes start to unravel it. I had a yoga teacher tell me once he had such intense back pain, there's the pain word, that he sat on the floor in his kitchen and he basically played chicken with pain. He said, I'm sitting here until you move out. And he put all his attention on what didn't feel good. And he was there hours. That man had infinite patience. I was blown away by this story. And they said the tension and sensations eventually did go. So let's bring in, that's just with the intelligence of the body. Let's bring in that which created the intelligence of the body. So this is the part of the session that I often will work silently. I offer the clearings silently. I'm going to do some out loud for you, so you can get a sense of what this work is. As I mentioned earlier, I trained with John Newton. His website is on my resources section on my website. And the general clearings that we're going to offer here, I'm sharing with permission on my website from him as well. So there's a little download you can get if you want to go back and read this for yourself. And we're going to ask humbly and gratefully for that which created everything that ever is, was, or will be. And if you're wondering what you're supposed to be doing right now, you can do nothing. You can notice the breath or the heart beating. You can notice what doesn't feel good in your body. You can just pay attention to sensation moving through. If you're participating, and if you're not, you're just witnessing. And we're calling on that. We're asking humbly and gratefully for that which created. That word is God, creator, source, whatever that word is for you. It is not my right to say what that word is for you. But we're calling on the creator, capital T, capital C, all that you truly are. We humbly and gratefully ask that you please help all of us watching live or by the replay. For all hurts and wrongs around this sensation that we're feeling, everything that led up to, all the experiences that led up to this sensation or sensations, everything that led up to these experiences, everything that happened, and everything we made them mean. For us, our family members, relationships, ancestors, and all the relationships going back as far as we need to, throughout all time, space, dimension, life, lifetimes, incarnations, just in case, past, present, and future. And for all hurts and wrongs, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, sexual, or financial, through thought, word, or deed, please help everyone involved to forgive and release each other, forgive and release themselves for the highest good always now and forever. Please and thank you, please and thank you, please and thank you. I'm going to work silently on some specific pieces around what I just shared. And if you're participating, you're just noticing sensation in the body. One moment. So that was one round, one general sweep of the broom. And your invitation continues. Take a breath in if you feel called to do so, and take a breath in and let it go when you're ready. And then we check in again from this new now moment. Every moment is new. And we believe that the past, maybe we believe that the past equals the future because it has appeared to for so long. But what if you've never been this version of you without that piece of burden before? How does that change the trajectory moving forward? How does that lighten the load or free up some more bandwidth? So now your invitation is to check back in. Okay, so I had experienced a 4 in the left shoulder, for example, and now it's a 1 or 2, or maybe it's not noticeable. Often people will say, yes, now I'm feeling a tightness in my stomach, leg, knee, ankle, shoulder, elbow, side of the neck. And my invitation to you is, before we look at that with round 2, check back in with where you were before, because often we don't remember. We don't remember what we don't carry anymore. Like I'll go to the chiropractor and I'll get an adjustment. And man, that feels good. And then, 2 or 3 days later of transition, and things kind of going through their equilibrium and getting back to homeostasis, 4 or 5 days later, I've already forgotten that I had that headache. And my chiropractor has an automatic thing and checks in and says, hey, just checking in to see how you're feeling. And I was like, oh, I totally forgot I even had that 5 days ago. So our minds are really interesting. So checking back in, you're welcome to share your new 0 to 10 of sensation. You can put in the comments if you want. You could say, I went from a 7 to a 3, 9 to a 4, whatever you want, like football scores. Or you can just notice it for yourself. How are we on time? We're going to offer one more round. If somebody has specific issues that they would like help with, just checking in the messages section. Okay. Then you're welcome to put it in the comments. Often this stuff, it can be kind of, some people are okay sharing stuff. Some people would prefer it to be private. So if you have something in specifically that you know that you want worked on, here's what we're going to do. Here's what we're going to do around that. We're going to offer a second round. It's different. Ooh, that's a good one too. We'll do that too. It's different for everybody and it's different every session based on who's here. Okay. So we had a comment in the Zoom to offer specific clearings around asthma. Now, I can't claim to work on asthma because I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not able to prescribe or make claims around treating or curing or preventing disease. However, what I can offer is some clearings and prayers around the possible spiritual roots to that physical ailment. So for that person, I would suggest put your attention on how that's affecting your life. So if that's affecting your life directly, and for those of you who don't have that issue, pick something else, pick something in your life. It can be a physical issue in the body. It can be something showing up in your life that you would prefer doesn't. Could be something that you would prefer in your life that's not showing up. Could be around work, around money, around relationships, something that doesn't feel good when you think about it. Only do what you can handle. And if you can't handle it, don't do it. Man, I wish I'd had that in my 20s too. So notice where you feel it in the body. So in the example of asthma or whatever your specific issue is for the rest of us here or watching on the replay, when you consider that issue, what doesn't feel good in the body? And I would dial it in deeper with that asthma example and say, either the physical issues of how you're feeling right now, or how is that affecting your life? Is it affecting your life in maybe that person can't go hiking with their children or grandchildren? Maybe it's affecting their life because there's the fear of having another attack or something like that. Whatever that specific issue is for you. I got you. Okay. So pick one. Pick one, because general issues, if we throw in everything into the pot, we get a general result. Pick one, come back and watch the replay. Pick another. I often go for the biggest one because I'm kind of like, let's rip the Band-Aid off it and just let's get in there and clean it out. You do what you feel you can handle. So pain between shoulder blades affects sleep, fear of being in a crowd, sleep. Okay. Yeah, sleep. Okay, we can throw that in there too. We're working this entire time silently. And I don't know about you, I'm feeling a lot of heat. So if you're also feeling heat in the body, notice that. Here we go. You have your issue, whatever your piece is that you would like to work on today, knowing that I'm not doing the work because I don't know what most of your issues are, and I don't need to know what they are. And we're offering them for generations going back and forward. So some of us might not even know what's there. Like, have you ever kept a secret from your kids? You think family secrets, stuff went on that nobody knows about, but we can clean it up because of the fact that it's not me doing the work of calling in that which created. God, creator, source, all that you truly are. We love you. Thank you for loving us. Humble and gratefully ask of you, please help all of you, all of us here on live or via the replay who want to participate, all of our family members, relationships, ancestors, and all their relationships throughout all relevant time, space, dimension, life, lifetimes, incarnations, past, present, and future, for all hurts and wrongs, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, sexual, and financial, through thought, word, or deed. Please help everyone involved to forgive and release each other, forgive and release themselves for the highest good, always now and forever. Please and thank you, please and thank you, please and thank you. Please know, for those of you who are new here as well, forgiveness doesn't mean that it's okay that it happened. We're offering it up. It doesn't make it okay what happened, but we don't want to carry it anymore. Please help everyone involved to forgive and release each other, forgive and release ourselves for everything we did and didn't do. Please help us all to forgive all people, help all people forgive us for the highest good, always, now, and forever. Please and thank you, please and thank you, please and thank you. Times we were abandoned or were abandoned, withheld love or had love withheld, were nurtured, loved, and supported. Times we didn't nurture, love, or support others in the way they need it. Help us all to forgive, be forgiven, and all forgive ourselves completely and totally. Please and thank you. Please and thank you. Please and thank you. Please, God, creator, source, all that you truly are, for the highest good, lift out all weight, pain, burden, sin, death, debt, negativity, limitation of all kind. Transform it into your love. Let your love flow back into all of them, all of us, filling and giving us all complete peace now and forever. Please and thank you, please and thank you, please and thank you. Help us all to love and bless each other, love and bless ourselves, be at peace with each other and at peace with ourselves, with the highest good, always, now and forever. Please and thank you. Dialing it in one more layer into our specific issues that we brought in tonight. Okay. When you're ready, take your breath in and let it go. And then you can check back in to the body and notice, is the sensation bigger, smaller, or different? Get your knee 0 to 10. There we go. I always like to make a noise when I exhale in this work. I'm just like, So we know putting our attention on what doesn't feel good in the body can help it to dissipate and move out of the system. We've learned the science around that. We've learned a very little bit about that. There's way more down the rabbit hole we can dive into. We've learned that often things that are showing up in our current experience didn't start in our current experience. And we've learned some tools on how we can clean that up. And also how we may be the first in our lineage to ever look at cleaning that up. So for that, I thank you, because this beautiful little planet of 7+ billion people on it can feel kind of heavy sometimes. Maybe you've noticed that. It can also feel sometimes like we don't have any power or control or ability to do anything about that heaviness. And so the invitation I'm sharing with you tonight is that the physics of this is, as we clean up our containers inside and out, what we carry, the outside world around us shifts to reflect what we're carrying, which can be scary sometimes if we carry a lot. Ask me how I know. And it's not our fault if we carry a lot. This is one modality and one tool that I use on a regular basis for myself and my clients and in group events to help lighten that load. So as little or as much of this work that you're interested in, you can visit my website, andreareedwellness.com. Click on the Ancestral Clearing button. It'll also take you to some testimonies of people who have allowed me to share their experiences on my website, what they've experienced through this work, how this work has helped them. And if you're in the local Tulsa area, my next in-person event, group event, is October 29th at 4 p.m. I'll be at Tulsa Healing, and I'll post that in the Facebook group. So be sure to join the Facebook group if you're not already in it. If you're watching on Zoom, you might not be. And the link is also on my website, Andrea Reed Wellness. Be kind to yourself in the next few days. Often I get asked, now that I've done this once, how do I move forward? What do I need to do moving forward? Some people can actually experience similar to like detox symptoms. Some people notice they feel happier. Some people have reported less pain, improved relationships. Some people notice, for me, when I started this work, the example that we were given in the trainings a lot is years ago when I was learning this, if you have a pot that's simmering on a stove and it's boiling and boiling and boiling away for many generations, and each generation comes along and holds the lid on real tight. When we lift that lid off, this work lifts the lid off of that so that steam and heat can escape. And so I noticed that I had a lot of emotions rising up. So if this is not counseling, this is not therapy, this is not advice, but what I did in those situations when I noticed, ooh, there's another wave coming, there's a wave coming, that often when I created space to feel it, it could move through me and then out. And to do what you feel is right for you, what you feel safe to do. But what I did is, if I couldn't handle it in the moment, I was like, I see you, coming back to you later. And the body released it through tears, and sometimes through nasal passages, and sometimes through shakiness, and sometimes through heat when I was alone. And so I would sit alone, because that was my process. Some people wanted to be in therapy, some people wanted to talk it out with somebody, but I would just sit in presence through, and then that wave can pass. So every experience is unique. If you have questions, you can email me through the website. You can message me through Facebook. I also do private sessions for people around the world. So phone sessions are available as well. But thank you for being here and taking the time to invest in yourself and humanity.